Hey, hello everybody, and welcome back to Ruben's History Show. Today, I'm going to make a video on the two emperors who succeeded Antonius Pius, which took place on March 7th, 161 AD, before after the death of Antonius Pius, when he died at the age of 74, in the Roman village of Lorium, and he was succeeded by Marcus Aurelius as the Emperor of Rome, and he held that position from March 7th, 161 AD, all the way to March 7th, 180 AD, when he died at the age of 58. And he was succeeded by Lucius Verus, who became the co-emperor of the Roman Empire. And this was the first time that Rome ever had a co-emperor, following the death of Antonius Pius, which took place on March 7th, 161 AD. So now I'm going to talk about the biography of Marcus Aurelius and Lucius Verus before they became the emperors of Rome. So Marcus Aurelius was born on April 26, 121 AD in Rome, which was the capital of the Roman Empire, and his birth name was Marcus Annius Verus, which was his father's name. And Marcus Aurelius was of an Italic or Liberian origins, so that's where he traced his ancestry from. And Aurelius was the son of Domitilla Lucilla, which was his mother, and his father was Marcus Annius Verus. That was his father, who was the father of Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius' sister Anna Corfinia Faustina was born in 122 or 123 AD under the rule of Hadrian, when Hadrian was the emperor of Rome from 117 AD, when Trajan died, or Marcus Publius Trajanus died, and all the way to July 10th, 138 AD, when he died at the age of 62 in Bea in his villa where he was living at the time. Marcus's father died in 124 AD during his praetorship, when Marcus was just 3 years old, because he was born in 121 AD and his father died in 124 AD when he was just 3 years old at the time. And then in the late 136 AD, Hadrian almost died because he was bleeding. He started losing some blood, but when he turned at the age of 60, because he was born in 76 AD in Italica, which was then Hispania, but now it's present-day Spain. And then also, he also held the position, Aurelius also held the position of the consul, and 3 times. One was in 140, one was in 145 AD, and the other one was in 161 AD, at the time when when Antonius Pius died. So he held the position of consul 3 times when Antonius Pius was emperor of Rome, following the death of Hadrian on July 10th, 138 AD. So, and then following the death of Antonius Pius, he would succeed him as the emperor of Rome at the time. And then he would be the emperor of Rome, and his brother, or Lucius Verus, would succeed him, would be the co-emperor after he succeeded Antonius Pius following his death at the time. And he also married Faustina the Younger, who was the daughter of Antonius Pius. He got married to her. He married her in 140. He married Faustina the Younger in 145 AD. Marcus Aurelius married Antonius's daughter, Faustina the Younger, in 145 AD. And then in 147 AD, 2 years after he got married, he was at the age of 62, and he was granted tribunician power and a great proconsulary power. He was granted proconsulary power when he was when he, during the time of Antonius Pius at the time. So that's the biography of Marcus Aurelius. Now time to move on to Lucius Verus. Lucius Verus was born on December 15th, 130 AD in the Roman Empire, or present-day Italy, or the Republic of Italy. And Verus was the first son of Avidea Platia and Lucus Aelius Caesar, who was the first adopted son of Hadrian, who Hadrian adopted as the emperor in 137 AD, and he would die a year later. On January 1st, 138 AD, the same year when Hadrian died. And he was also named Lucus Aelius Commodus. That was his name. He was named Lucus Aelius Commodus following his death. And then Lucius Verus was the first adopted son and heir to the Roman Emperor Hadrian at the time. Hadrian was the emperor of Rome from 117 AD all the way to 138 AD when he died. So he ruled the Roman Empire for almost 21 years. So, and then Verus was raised and born in Rome, and Verus also had another brother named Gaius Avidius Siculus Commodus, and he had two sisters named Iana Fabia and Iana Platia. Those were his two sisters. And Lucius Verus started his political career as a quaestor, which was the highest office in the Roman Empire and the Roman Republic in 153 AD, which was during the time of Antonius Pius's rule, when Antonius was emperor of Rome. So he held the position of quaestor under the rule of Antonius Pius, who was the emperor of Rome from 138 AD all the way to 161 AD when he died at the age of 74. And he was also married to Lucius Verus was also married to Marcus's daughter in 138 AD, the same year when Hadrian died. He was married to Marcus's daughter, which was Lucilla. Lucilla was the daughter of Marcus Aurelius, and Lucius Verus married her. And he also became a consul. Lucius Verus became consul in 154 AD, and under his adoptive father Antonius Pius's rule from 138 AD all the way to 161 AD when he died at the age of 74 in Larium, which is a Roman village where he was educated and raised there. And then in 161 AD, Verus was again consul together with Marcus Aurelius. He was a consul the second time in 161 AD during the time of Antonius Pius. And Marcus Aurelius was his senior partner. That was his friend to him, basically. And then Lucius Verus's grandfather was Gaius Avidius Nigerus, who was a senator and a trustful general of Trajan, who was the emperor of Rome from 98 AD when his adoptive father Nerva died, all the way to 117 when he died when he was trying to return to Rome from the east where he was fighting at the time. And his grandfather Gaius Avidius Nigerus Trajan sent him to Delphi, Greece, where he assisted the future historian Aria, who was a Greek historian. And Lucas's grandmother was Nicta Platia. That was his grandmother's name. And so Marcus spent his time as the successor of the Roman Empire under the rule of Antonius Pius's rule. And then during the time of Marcus Aurelius and Lucius Verus, the Parthians or Persians invaded the Armenia, which is a small country located in Asia. And so they invaded Armenia, and the Parthians made their own king to the Armenian throne. They made their own king. They put their own king to the Armenian throne. And so the Romans sent some troops to maintain order. They wanted to restore order, but a Roman legion was destroyed by the Parthians when they were trying to bring back order to the Armenia, but they were destroyed by the Parthians. And then Marcus Aurelius became praetor. Caesar Marcus Aurelius Antonius Augustus, and Lucas became Imperator Caesar Lucas Aurelius Verus Augustus at the time. And Lucas's general drove the Persians out of Armenia, and the Romans maintained order to Armenia, and Armenia was brought back, and Armenia was under the Roman control. Lucas trains his troops to drive the Parthians out of Armenia, which was successful, and it worked. It worked during his time, and they drove out the Parthians out of Armenia. And Marcus stayed in Rome. He stayed in Rome at the time. He was in Rome during the time when Lucius Verus was in Armenia fighting the Parthians there. And then in 165 AD, the war in the east continued when the Romans moved to Mesopotamia and captured and burned Parthian royal cities. That's when the war continued in the east. And just like Trajan did 50 years earlier, he burned down Parthian cities when he was fighting in the east, who was the Roman emperor at the time. And then in October 166 AD, the two emperors of Rome celebrated their victory over the Parthians, and Lucius Verus was called the conqueror of the Parthians, or Parthicus Maximus, which means the conqueror of the Parthian conqueror. That's what it basically means if you translate to English from Latin. So then, after the victory over the Parthians in the winter of 166 all the way to 167 AD, a horde or 6,000 barbarians crossed the Danube into the Payana, where they were driven by a military action during the time. And there were the barbarians fighting in the Danube at the time during the rule of Lucius Verus and Marcus Aurelius. And then a plague struck the imperial party, or the Roman Empire at the time, and Antonius got sick, and he died 3 days later after he suffered a stroke in 177 AD. Yeah, 169 AD. So 8 years after he took power as the co-emperor of Rome. So he died in 169 AD on January 23rd, 169 AD at the age of 38. And following the death of his adoptive brother Lucius Verus, Marcus Aurelius became the only Roman emperor. He became the sole ruler of the Roman Empire. So he was in control of the Roman Empire. He was the top guy. No one else was the co-emperor following the death of Lucius Verus, who was the co-emperor of Rome from 161 AD all the way to 169 AD. So that's the short story. That's the story of Lucius Verus and Marcus Aurelius. In my next video, I'm going to talk about Commodus, who was the emperor of Rome and the last emperor of the Nerva Antona dynasty, which brought an end, and it would start a civil war, and it would be a struggle for power on who was going to be the new emperor of Rome following his death. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.